Hi, this is Kenny Albert. You're listening to the Broadway Hat Podcast with your host, Kyle Hall, the #1 podcast for all things Rangers hockey.
Welcome back to the Broadway Hat Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Hall, and it is finally here. We are one day away from New York Rangers regular season hockey. The Rangers and Capitals will face off tomorrow night at 7:30 on the brand new TNT hockey. I am so pumped. I'm so ready to go for this game. It looks like some good news for the Rangers as Ryan Reeves will be playing in the game. He skated in practice today. Gerard Gallant said that it looks like he'll be ready to go. So, after going down with an injury in the preseason game with a dirty play by PK Subban, it looks like Ryan Reeves will be in the opening day lineup, lining up against Tom Wilson. Anything Ranger fans, hockey fans want to see, we're going to see. Hopefully these two drop the gloves at center ice, get this out of the way, get on with our season, kind of put that whole incident in the past, which is what I'm excited for. I'm excited to see the Rangers give a little back to Tom Wilson, but honestly, I just want to get on from the incident, let them drop the gloves, let Reeves do what he does, and just be done with it. Also, Ryan Strome looks like he's going to be ready to go. He got banged up in that last preseason game as well. He had a hand injury against the Islanders, but it looks like he'll be playing in the game. He practiced today as well. The big news for the Rangers this week is Mika Zibanejad signing his 8-year, $8.5 million average per year salary. They finally lock up Mika. We can finally put to bed the Jack Eichel rumors as well. Now that Mika is signed, I cannot imagine the Rangers going after Eichel anymore. I think it's a great deal for both Mika and the Rangers. Obviously, 8 years is a long time, but looking at where the salaries are going and what the recent deals that have happened, it's probably, Mika probably left money on the table by signing the extension now instead of waiting for the offseason to be an unrestricted free agent. But he has the security. He wanted to stay in New York. He's saying all the right things. And with that, the shocking news now is that the Rangers will not be naming a captain this year. After the whole offseason of Gallant and Drury saying, we want to name a captain, Gallant said, during training camp, if I was a betting man, I would say that there'll be a captain opening night. Well, I hope you didn't bet on it because there's not going to be a captain opening night. The Rangers announced they're going with 6 alternates this year. So when you have 18 skaters and you have 6 alternates, that means a third of your roster is an assistant captain. That's kind of ridiculous. There's 2 things I take away from this. One, you have a lot of leaders in the locker room, which is great. That's a great thing to have. 2, it seems as though the players voted on it. So from what the stuff that the writers have gathered and what Gallant's kind of said, it seems like this is the direction the guys want to go in. And listen, I'm not like, oh, you need a captain. A lot of Ranger fans are very upset. that you need a captain. It's just odd. It's weird they had this phobia about naming a captain all of a sudden. They had it since Ryan McDonald left in 2018. It's been a while. They're just not ready to just jump in and name that captain. I don't know. I don't know what the phobia is, what the weirdness is about it. But 6 alternates is a lot. It's a lot to have. When you look at the list, a couple other interesting things. So you have Chris Kreider, Mika Zibanejad, Jacob Trouba, and Artemi Panarin all were assistant captains last year. They'll all retain an A this year. The 2 new A's this year are Ryan Strome, which I am very excited about. Ryan Strome has quietly been a really, really good locker room guy, a leader behind the scenes. You hear about him taking the young guys underneath his wing. Last year, I've referenced it a couple times, against the Capitals in that game where they all, the fight at the Garden afterwards. Ryan was like the 4th or 5th fight that night. He didn't have to fight to win that night. He didn't have to drop the gloves. Strome dropped the gloves, stuck up for his team. The next night he's wearing an A in Boston. I know that meant a lot to that team, him doing that. So it's great to see him get rewarded. And a guy who's had a really difficult, talk about off seasons. Every off season he's getting traded or whatever else. And, he just keeps on plugging away and plays a really solid second line center. Obviously, him and Artemi Panarin have an unbelievable chemistry together. So I don't know why you'd want to, break that up. Again, he'll be an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. He's probably due for a nice salary increase, probably in the $6 million range. That's a decision the Rangers will have to make at the end of the year, what they do with him. But it's nice to see him get rewarded with the assistant captain position. And the last one, newcomer Barclay Goodrow gets an A. We saw him wear an A in the final Rangers preseason game. Very surprising. 2 takeaways from that. 1, no Adam Fox, no Ryan Lindgren wearing A's. I was very surprised by that, especially because Lindgren wore one during the preseason. Fox actually did not. But Lindgren wore one in one of the games. I am very surprised, considering Adam Fox was I wouldn't say dark horse, but he was definitely someone who a lot of people thought should be the captain. Personally, I thought it was going to come from the Kreider, Zibanejad, Trouba threesome there. One of those 3 guys would be named captain. I was very surprised Fox was not named an assistant captain, but he's, very early in his career. He's a young kid. Maybe he needs to develop a little further in his locker room leadership. I don't know. I'm not sure, but very surprised neither him nor Lindgren were named an assistant captain this year. If you're going to have 6 guys, I would have thought one of those 2 would have been in the 6. The last thought about that is Barclay Goodrow must have made quite the impression on this team coming in from training camp, first time on this roster, to be named an assistant captain. So between the team and the coaching staff, he must be really making a good first impression, which I think is great. A guy who's won back-to-back Stanley Cups, just secured himself a nice contract. You would think maybe he would kind of dial it, it's happened on many teams. Guys don't take a year off, but, they don't come in as great shape. They're not as focused because they're coming in after a championship, whatever. If this signifies to me that he came in, did all the right things, made a great impression, and now he's going to be part of this leadership group going forward. It's great to have a 2-time Stanley Cup winner as, part of this leadership group. When you look at the rest of the list, no other guy has a Stanley Cup. No other guy has really experience in that. Panarin won one with Chicago? I'm not sure about that. But the rest of me, Kreider obviously has not. Zibanejad has not. Trouba has not. Strome has not. But Goodrow brings that Stanley Cup pedigree with him, which is something the Rangers want to add this offseason because of his leadership and because of his playoff experience. So, just an interesting note there about the A. Last week when we had Vince Mercogliano on, who was so good. I mean, such awesome information. We talked about the possibility it would be very Ranger-esque to give Zibanejad the extension and then announce he was captain afterwards. Or like Vince said, maybe that's part of the deal in getting him back, and maybe at a lower rate was giving him the C. Obviously, that didn't happen, but I really thought that was going to be a possibility. When I saw the news drop that he was getting the extension, I immediately thought he was going to get named captain. But obviously, the Rangers thought differently. But that would be so Ranger of them to do just a giant press conference and blow it out. Give him a contract, especially because of the timing of it right before the season. Give him the contract extension, name him captain. I really thought that was going to happen. But now we're dealing with the 6 A's, and Gallant said it. They might name it captain further down the line. They're just not ready to do it yet. I don't know what that means. When is the right time? Who knows? But this is what we got for now. The other big news is the Rangers put their roster down to 23 men, which they had to do before the start of the season. Something that I called on Twitter, and Ranger fans are very upset about. Vitaly Kravtsov will be sent down to Hartford. I saw this coming a mile away. Kravtsov and Barron are going down to Hartford because they are, waiver exempt. They don't have to pass through waivers to go down. They sent Greg McKegg back down, but McKegg is actually exempt until I think November 3rd, I read, because he already went through waivers. So, not a surprise to me. They picked the 2 guys that can go through waivers for now. Try to figure out if they have a trade partner. They're keeping right now Hayek, Hunt, and Gauthier on the Rangers roster. All 3 guys had to go through waivers. Once I heard Gallant talk about Gauthier and how impressed he was with his training camp and how he's liked the way he's played in the preseason, I thought there was very little chance they were going to try to send him down. I thought that he was going to make the team, and if he didn't make the team, they were not going to risk him going through waivers anyway. I saw a couple of people say, "Oh, he would have got picked by Seattle." Again, one team opposed to 30. I think someone takes a chance on a big, strong kid who's improving, former first-round pick pedigree, blah blah. I think he would get selected. Hayek, I would have put him on waivers. I think we've seen what we're going to see out of Libor Hayek, unfortunately, and it sucks because if you lose Hayek for nothing, you got a third-round pick. Basically, you got Ryan Reeves out of Brett Howden's, kind of a trade-off there. And those are the two big pieces you got in the McDonough trade. I know the draft pick that was associated with Nils Lundqvist, okay. But those were two prospects that you had lined up. You had them pegged as big-time players for your organization, and they both flamed out. And I don't see Hayek being much more than a depth defenseman or to be honest with you, looking at that Hartford lineup, I don't think he cracks a top 4 in Hartford in the defensive lineup. I really don't. I don't think he's that good. I put Braden Schneider ahead of him. I definitely put Zach Jones ahead of him. I think the Rangers know that as well. I think Matthew Robertson's a better prospect right now than Libor Hayek. I just don't see where he fits into the Rangers' future. And I know when you look at, would you have kept, Kravtsov or Barron? No, I mean, they're not if you don't need the forwards, then there's no reason. It's not like you're sending a defenseman down. You weren't going to keep Zach Jones up because you wanted him to develop further. So I understand it. They have the salary cap. It doesn't hurt them to keep Hayek around to try to find a trade partner. Like Vince said last week, they tried to trade him over the summer. No one wants him. Or if they do want him, it's going to be a very, very bad, the 6th, 7th round pick return. So at this point, I think you move on. I think if he gets clears waivers, fine. He goes out of Hartford. You figure it out. But if you lose him, I don't think he's part of the future right now for this team, unfortunately. So it might be time to move on from him. I think Hunt had an okay preseason. Drayton Hunt, he had a good first game. He had a up and down game against New Jersey there, but it looks like he's going to be in the opening day roster because the Rangers look like they're going heavy in this Capitals lineup. From what they showed today in practice, their last practice really before the first opening game, they had Hunt in the lineup. They had Sammy Blais on the third line, by the way. Sammy Blais, again, couple of great games at the end of the preseason. Last year, we started the Kevin Rooney fan club. We have the Sammy Blais fan club now. It's him and Rooney. I love this guy. I think he's going to play in the second power play, too. He's going to be in that Kreider role in front, park his 6'2", 205 body in front. I am very excited to watch him play. And I know we talked about Kyle a couple times. The Ranger fans are not going to like him, blah, blah, Paolo Buchnevich, blah, blah. You got to move on from it. They made a trade. Deal with it. Sammy Blais now a Ranger. I like him. He hits anything that moves. Referee, opposing player. I'm pretty sure he hit his own guy last game. Guy's a truck. I'm pumped to watch him play. I think he's the type of player Ranger fans are going to love. Just doing dirty work, has some skill, cleans up the garbage in front of the net, sticks up for his teammates. He's got a really good slap shot too. I love Sammy Blais. He looks like he's going to play in the third line opening night. So Hunt's going to slide in. Gauthier looks like he's going to be a scratch for the opener. And then the other thing is Nils Lundqvist looks like he's going to get scratched too for the opener. They're going to go with Jared Tenorti, who is pretty much signed for these type of games. Tenorti's 6'6". He's a fighting, I wouldn't call him an enforcer, but he's definitely a very physical defenseman who likes to drop the gloves. So it looks like Tenorti will go in this game. And that, I think he was signed mostly to play in games against Washington and the Islanders. Guys like Ross Johnson out there on Long Island who was causing issues last game. Matt Martin obviously is there. The Islanders got a lot of guys you got to, look out for that will drop the gloves. So I can see why he's playing. Would I have liked to see Lundqvist out there, just based off of the great training camp, being named top rookie in training camp and how well he played in the preseason? Of course, I think any Ranger fan would. But I understand that they might want to look to make a statement this first game. I saw Gallant said, "Oh, we're not out there for revenge. We're there to win the game." That's fine, but I think this Ranger team is going to establish themselves this game, and I think they're going to show Washington and the rest of this Metro Conference that they are not going to back down to anyone, and this is a new attitude on this Rangers roster. And I think Ryan Reeves starts it. I think Tenorti is there. Sammy Blaze there. Hunt is a very physical player. Kevin Rooney is not afraid to drop the gloves. You saw that against the Islanders last preseason game. He was ready to drop the gloves against pretty much half the team on a one shift. So I think the Rangers are going to obviously not play stupid on Wednesday. Or at least I hope they don't. But I think they're going to look to make somewhat of a statement about this new direction this team is going, which I'm fine with. I think that it's what they need to do. So we have two awesome guests. I didn't even get to my guests yet. Unbelievable guests this week. I am pumped up for ESPN to start this hockey coverage. They already started doing some hockey stuff. We saw Mika Zibanejad get top billing on ESPN.com, which I was shocked about, over the Alabama upset on Saturday. So I was like, oh my God, Mika Zibanejad's, getting more airplay than Nick Saban. That's the new era now. It's awesome having ESPN, taking over some of this NHL media. Obviously, TNT is also involved. And I talked about in our interviews, I'm not saying anything bad about NBC. NBC did a fine job. I just think it got a little stale there at the end. The personalities, I think, got a little stale in the studio. So I'm excited to have a lot of new faces covering the sport, a lot of more digital and social media aspects of it. Like NBC didn't do anything from a social media or digital. Like they did nothing like that. It was basically you got Wednesday night, maybe Saturday. That's it. ESPN's got the ESPN Plus. They're gonna have studio shows. In the Crease show at Butchergross is coming out. Actually, both my guests are gonna be doing a digital show for NHL together. So that's really exciting to see. I'm just really excited to have a lot of really good hockey personalities covering the sport and hopefully growing it further out. So my guests this week are from ESPN. Greg Wojcinski, who does an unbelievable job. Remember him from Puck Daddy way back when in Yahoo. Oh, he was on AOL back in the day. He does an unbelievable job for ESPN covering, writing, breaking news. Guy's awesome. Awesome guy. Does a podcast with Emily Kaplan, who's also extremely talented. If you haven't seen Emily Kaplan or follow her, make sure you follow her. She is so good. Her and Linda Cohen do a show. They just have so much talent on ESPN right now. And our other guest is Arda Ocal, who you might remember him from the MSG Networks. He did the hockey show on MSG. He does Sports Center, Sports Nation. He'll be doing play-by-play and studio stuff with ESPN for hockey this year. He has some awesome Ranger stories. Greg just had great stories, great input about this year, great season outlook, and some good Ranger talk about what happened this last offseason. So two really good interviews that I'm so excited to share with everybody. But before we send into an interview with Greg first, I do want to talk about our brand new sponsors over at Symbol Exchange. This is a really cool thing. Great company. I'm really excited to partner up with them. So Symbol, basically, it's the stock market for sports. So you can go on there and you buy your own team. You can buy stock in teams, whoever you think's going to be, winning that week or losing, whatever it is. You go on and you buy their stock and you make money every time your team wins. So I went on there this week and I bought a ton of New York Rangers stock for this year. I think the Rangers could be a great team this year. I think they're going to win a lot. And I got them at a very good price. And you can still go on there and get them. I think the Rangers, last time I saw, the Rangers are trading, I think it was our 30. Let me pull it up here. The Rangers were trading at $41 a share right now. So go on there now. You can get the Rangers at $41 a share. Listen, if you think the Buffalo Sabres are going to have this great turnaround year, they're at $24. You can make some good money back on the Buffalo Sabres. You go on there and take Buffalo. I think a team who might make some noise this year, the Ottawa Senators, they're at $27. They're a good buy. Another team who I think might make some noise this year is the Blackhawks. They're at $29. So there's a lot of good teams. You get on there. You can get them at a good price right now. And every time they win, you make money. And not only that, if you go on there and use the code Broadway, you get $100 risk free. So no matter what, put $100 in, buy some stock in teams, you make money, you keep it, you keep going, make more money, make more money, make more money. It's a beautiful thing. And it's free, risk-free, completely risk-free. Type in the code Broadway. Go on their website, symbol, SIMBUL.app. So symbol.app. Go on there. You can trade college football, NFL, NHL, MLB, NBA, any sport. Go on there, check it out. Go buy some stock. Go buy whoever your favorite team is, whatever team you think is going to be good. If you got guys in fantasy who you think are going to be good, go buy their team. But go check them out. Really, really cool thing. We are now joined by a very special guest, a guy who I have been reading his articles for, I would say, last 10 to 15 years. He's been around forever. One of the best NHL writers in the game. And he is now the senior NHL writer for ESPN. He also is the co-host of the Puck Soup podcast. Greg Wojcinski, thanks so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure. I think if you were reading me for 20 years, that means you were reading me covering Lake Braddock Secondary School field hockey in Burke, Virginia. So that'd be weird. That was a limited readership, but I think 15 probably covers the span of my hockey writing career.
Yeah. I mean, I go back to the AOL days of reading you on there on the AOL homepage, up to Yahoo, now ESPN. I read you daily now. I mean, it's unbelievable since I've been following you on your entire career.
Yeah, and obviously there's been changes. I was Blogger Boy, back in like 2005 or 2006, and then took that and made Puck Daddy, and that was a certain vibe. I try to make as much trouble as I can at ESPN. They sort of frown upon Photoshop contests, so it's a bit of a different kind of trouble that I used to get in at Puck Daddy. But I gotta say, like I've been really happy and really kind of blown away with how much leeway and latitude they give us to try things and do things and really cover the sport in ways that I think it needs to be covered. I mean, like one of the mandates that both Emily Kaplan and I got when we were hired around the same time, which is, we want to kind of broaden the tent of hockey fandom. And I'm like, I know how to do that. And so like being able to write about fan-oriented things and things that we all care about versus just simply like GM X told me player Y could get a 2-year contract. Like that's great, but it's not necessarily the thing that I think grows the hockey fan base. And now that we have the rights, I mean, it's just going to be even more of the things that I think will make hockey more, I hope will make hockey more popular in the US.
How excited are you for this season? Like you said, NHL now getting involved back in the hockey game, having the rights to the NHL. How excited are you to cover the season?
I'm really excited. I mean, like I was telling somebody the other day, though, it feels like I've been running at one speed for 4 years, and then all of a sudden the treadmill got a lot faster. Like it's incredible how much has been done behind the scenes to prep for this season in only the span of a few months, relative to when the deal was struck. But it's incredible. I mean, like the idea that now we're going to have, not only the nightly highlights show, but coverage of the games on ESPN and like our own crews going out and doing games for ESPN Plus, and the hour-long show The Point that they just announced on Thursdays, which is going to be a combination of like news of the day and then really, really incredible features that are going to be kind of in that 30 for 30 vein of, cinematic interviews and stuff. And there's more to come that I can't announce yet that I'll be involved with. But I mean, it's just an incredible amount of stuff that they've generated, and not to like shade anybody that's had the rights for the last 15 years, but I mean, there's a lot more real estate, I think, being given to hockey already at ESPN than had been given to it in other places.
Yeah, I'm very excited for the coverage. Now you and I, we went back and forth on Twitter last year during the JD and Gorton firings.
Doesn't sound like me.
It was a positive. It was positive. I wrote on there like, I can't believe it, and you wrote back like, me neither. Basically, the Rangers offseason after that firing. How do you see their offseason played out? Like, what do you think how do you rate their offseason? How do you think they did relative to what you thought they were going to do?
I don't remember how I rated them as far as like off-season report card style. But it's interesting. I felt like for a while, they were in the Eichel hunt and maybe remain there. And then maybe we're waiting to see how that situation played out. I think that for the availability, having a player like that available probably gummed up the works for several teams. And I'm imagine the Rangers might be one of them, just from what I know about Chris Drury's affinity for the player. Obviously the biggest two things that happened for them in the offseason, I think, were obviously the coaching decision, which I like Gallant a lot. I think that he is a player's coach and might be the right guy to come in at this point in the maturation of that team. But also the contract given to Shesterkin that I think caught some people off guard. The richest second contract ever given to a goalie in the NHL didn't catch me off guard, man. I love that guy. I think that the only thing you're worried about with him is health, because otherwise he's got every tool that he needs in his toolbox to be a number one goalie in this league and be a real good one too. Like a worthy successor to Hank, if not on Hank's level. And then the other thing, though, was this whole knuckling up thing that we're doing on the Rangers, like bringing in Ryan Reeves and giving Barclay Goodrow that contract and, doing some of the other things they've done to kind of like toughen up. And, I know that the de facto answer is that it's a reaction to the Tom Wilson incident. And I don't think that that's untrue. But I do think that when you look at this lineup, and you look at some of the players they have in their skill positions, and you look at the youth that they have for a lot of their, offensive weapons that are coming up. Like, one of the things that Ryan Reeves always did wherever he went was he made people stand up a little bit taller, knowing that he was on the bench. And, whether that is in practice because of like how he can go out and beat up people, or just because mentally, there's somebody there to help take care of you, it's undeniable that he's had that impact in the places that he's been. So I think it is a reaction to Tom Wilson, but I also think it's a reaction to where the Rangers think they are as a team and where the Rangers know they are as a team vis-a-vis how the East plays. Because I mean, like, taking Goodrow off of Tampa, well, Goodrow was there for that same kind of reason. That checking line of him and Coleman and Gord. I was just talking to a source in Tampa yesterday about this. Like, they're going to really struggle to figure out how to replace that. Not only from a toughness perspective, but also from an offensive perspective. And Goudreau was one of those guys they didn't want to lose because he can bring that toughness, but also bring skill. So in a roundabout way, I wanted to say that, like, for all the attention the Ryan Reeves thing has gotten, I think Goudreau is a sneakily smart addition for this team. Championship pedigree, toughness, and can bring a little bit more skill than your normal guy that can throw down.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a change that needed to happen. I mean, I know there's a lot of toughness that got added, but I mean, for a couple of years, the Rangers were lacking in that department. It was a lot of skilled players, having a guy like Vitaly Kravtsov playing the fourth line where he really doesn't belong. It didn't really help anyone either. So I was happy with the moves they did make. Maybe they went a little overboard on some of the moves. A couple of other guys who I think are going to be more of AHL fringe guys, which I don't really think will play into the team that much. But yeah, I like bringing in Barclay Goodrow. I think he was a great addition to the team, just because, like you said, his winning pedigree, and he can play offense. He's not just a tough guy. He can play offense. He can kill penalties, which is something that obviously any team needs. And Igor Shesterkin, I saw you just ranked your goaltending tandems. You ranked the Rangers number 6, which I'm happy with. I think a lot of fan bases will probably yell at you, but I'm happy with that.
That was lower than some of the numbers indicated. Stephen Valiquette, who I worked with on the piece, one of my favorite people to talk to about goalies, his real clear stats ranking had them right behind the Islanders in number 2 overall. I couldn't quite go there yet. Georgiev, I think, maybe a little bit overrated in that metric, and Shesterkin, like I said, like a little bit of a hesitancy about his health. But I think I got blowback for that, but I mean, like, if you don't believe that tandem is top 10 in this league, I don't know what you're looking at, because I think they're terrific.
Yeah, I think they're I mean, Georgiev has some struggles on breakaways, but he's a very solid number 2 goalie. Maybe gets a little paid more than some Ranger fans want to see a backup goalie get paid. A lot of Keith Kincaid fans out there. But I think Gorgig's a very solid. Hey, as a Devil guy, I know
I'm a huge, the secret sauce for that one run that they made to the playoffs under John Hines was not necessarily Taylor Hall, although he got a Hart Trophy out of it. It was Keith Kincaid playing the best hockey of his life for like a month and a half. Yeah. Is the reason they made the playoffs that year.
All right, so let me get a couple of rapid fire questions at you here. Bigger breakout season for the Rangers: Lafreniere, Kravtsov, Kakko.
I'll go Lafreniere. He's got so much talent. I feel like, he's so young. He needed a year to kind of get an understanding of how this league works. And then maybe the Rangers needed an understanding of where he best fits. But the idea that his second season isn't going to be a significant upgrade over his first is hard to comprehend. I'm still trying to wrap my brain around Kakko, to be honest with you. Like, I don't know what he'll end up being. I hope he's good. I like him as a person. I like talking to that kid, but I wonder where I know where the ceiling is, but I just don't know where he's going to end up in context with that ceiling. You know what I mean?
Yeah, gotcha. Prediction for the team, where they end this year in the playoffs or no?
Now, I haven't really sussed out where I think teams are going to finish, and the Metro especially is vexing me. Like, the only two that I know aren't going to be playoff teams are the Devils and Columbus, and I know that, like, I've seen some projections saying the Devils could be as high as third, and they could be a wild card team. They would need their young players to so exponentially outkick their coverage this year from a goal scoring perspective, and they would need the entirety of their defense to basically band together and be like a 25 goal scorer together, which with Dougie there is, I guess, maybe possible, but I just don't see it yet. I feel like they're a year away. The only team that I know is going to make the playoffs is the Islanders, because that's just what Barry Trotz's teams do, unless just some sort of catastrophic injury. It's basically the same team that we've seen in previous years. Their goaltending is very strong. Barzal's great. Like, I feel like they're going to be a playoff team. Everything else behind that, I don't know. The Rangers and Flyers, to me, are the two teams that I look at and say they're going to be in that range of where they could be a lot better than expected, or maybe a little bit worse than expected, depending on the actualization of some of their younger players, in particular Carter Hart with the Flyers, whether he has the bounce back season that I think he could, and then the Rangers kind of coming together and playing a better team defense under Gerard Gallant than I think they've played in previous seasons. The two I can't figure out at all are Washington and Pittsburgh. Now, Pittsburgh in particular, because they're going to be injured and banged up and missing Crosby and Malkin for at least the start of the season, Malkin a little bit longer than that. But they have a funny way of winning when they're missing those guys. So I can't count them out yet. And then the Capitals, who the hell knows? Like, I don't like their defense. I don't like their goaltending. But it is, again, a core of players that always seems to find a way to drag their team to the playoffs, and with a coach in Laviolette that doesn't usually miss. So I'm struggling to kind of figure out between the Islanders, who I know are in, and I'm pretty sure Carolina's in too. The Islanders and Carolina, I know they're probably in. Then you get the Devils and Columbus that I'm pretty sure aren't. I don't know who finishes third, and I don't know who finishes in the wild card. When you look at the Atlantic, I mean, you're looking at Tampa and Toronto cement them in, Boston and Florida kind of right behind them. You assume all those four teams could be playoff teams. So you could be looking at third place, or I should say one place in the top three and a wild card for four teams in the Metro. And so kind of have to figure out where these teams are going to fall. I haven't figured it out quite yet.
Two of the Rangers stars are coming up on contracts, Adam Fox and Mika Zibanejad. Where do you see their contracts falling? I know Quinn Hughes just signed a deal. If the Rangers sign Fox at 7.75, Ranger fans will do cartwheels in the street.
Yeah, they ain't gonna sign him for 7.75. They're gonna have to sign him for at least 8, because like that dude's got a Norris Trophy now.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the bottom line. I mean, and the thing about it too is the interesting part of this equation is Trouba, because they clearly did not know what Fox would be when they made the Trouba deal, right? And I feel like if they could do it again, would they? Knowing that A, Fox is going to be Fox, and B, they'd have to pay Fox that amount of money, because you certainly don't want that much money between two defensemen in your blue line, right? And who's the other guy?
Mika Zibanejad.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a real tough one.
It's rumored at 8 for 8.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds a little high, but I mean, that might be the going rate if he hit the open market. You know, yeah. I feel I like his game a lot. I do hope that last year was just an anomaly and that he could be what he's been. But a lot of that, you know, depends. I mean, again, like we started out the conversation, I think the Eichel thing being out there is interesting. And if you're looking to add Jack at 10, I mean, Mika's always been kind of talked about as being a part of that equation, right? Like, you know, he can't be there if Jack is there. And I'm sure that's part of the thinking on whatever they end up settling on with Mika.
The Jack Eichel situation. Is this the biggest blunder in a franchise in the NHL history of what they've handled him with in Buffalo?
I mean, here's the way I see it. Like, I know that the health situation and the surgery situation is the means to an end for that relationship. But like, the biggest problem with Jack Eichel and the Sabres is that they suck, and that he's never been in the playoffs. Like, you look around at the people he was drafted with, you look around at the other young players of his generation, and they've all at least been into the playoffs. Like, Jack's never been to the playoffs. Jack has had more general managers than he had playoff appearances in his life. That's not how it should work if you're Jack Eichel. So, you know, I think there's been a lot of attention paid to, like, hey, just let him have the surgery and this, that, and the other thing. And I think there's a lot more involved in that process than people really want to admit, including what other teams that may want to trade for Eichel ultimately want him to do with his health as well. Where if they get, you know, him getting this traditional surgery versus him getting the more experimental surgery could affect what the Sabres get back in a trade, or could affect who wants to trade for him. But I think the ground was already laid well before that, where we're hearing like a year ago in the summer of 2020 that Eichel's miserable and considering his options for the future. So when you say, is it a blunder? I mean, yeah, a extraordinarily bitter impasse over a player's health is something that you never want to see, and something we don't usually see in the NHL. But I think the problem between those two is that he doesn't want to be part of what would be a third rebuild of his career. I mean, it was like, you know, it was a Russian nesting doll of rebuilds. Like, Tim Murray had one, then Botterill came in and put a rebuild inside the rebuild. Like, it's insane. So that's why he's not going to be a Sabre, beyond all the machinations about the surgery.
What's your biggest NHL hot take coming into this year?
Biggest NHL hot take, that I think the Winnipeg Jets have a legitimate shot at winning the Stanley Cup. There's a hot take.
Okay.
I think, you know, if the Scheifele line isn't on the downside, in particular, Wheeler is who I'm concerned about. If what we saw from Ehlers last year is the beginning of a dominant run for him, if Pierre-Luc Dubois, if we could chalk up the season he had last year to the trade and COVID weirdness, like, they're really loaded up front. And I really like what they did on their back end to not only make additions by subtraction, but also bring in Brendan Dillon and bring in Nate Schmidt and sort of solidify their defense in a way that it hasn't been solidified since Trouba and Bufflin and those guys were there. And they have the second best goalie in the world. So while we're paying attention to Colorado, we're paying attention to Vegas and some of these other teams in the West, it would not shock me to see Winnipeg sneak through if things trended in the right direction. That'd be my hottest take.
You were at the NHL Media Days. Who's your favorite guy to talk to?
They probably weren't there. One guy I love talking to, there's two guys actually. So Stamkos has always been great. I always find him to be on that like Ryan Miller level of introspection, and he's eloquent and really has a grasp on, you know, the game and also his career. We had a really good I'm doing a story on Ovechkin for next week, and Stamkos and I had a really good talk about, you know, the fact that at one point in his career he was like, neck and neck a little bit with Ovi in the goal scoring department. And then obviously the health situation for him changed in a way that it did not for Ovechkin. I wish that the other guy I was going to say is Sid. And I wish that Sid would sit down and do more things. Because I think that Sid, although we always make fun of him for being kind of a bore as a star or whatever, he's got a lot going on under the hood. He's like a military history fan. He's got, I think, some really interesting insights about being an NHL player and living the life and being a leader and being Sidney Crosby that he'll share occasionally. But I just find him to be really interesting. And I know he's a really private person and he doesn't necessarily want to like sit down for the half an hour, in 60-minute interview or whatever. But like, I like talking to him, and I think that he's such a really interesting player. Like, we're talking about a guy that might be top 10 all time, probably is top 10 all time as far as being an all-around player. And like you and me, we've been watching this for a long time. We saw him come up and be this whiny little, little miscreant, complaining to the referees and Sid the Kid, and Capitals fans are bringing pacifiers to the game. And now to see him in a place where he's like the elder statesman and, considered by this generation that's come up to be the model, like they used to have his fat head on the wall growing up kind of player, it's just a really fascinating journey for a star. And I wish that we could get more out of him about that.
What's your Stanley Cup prediction?
I don't have one yet. You kidding me?
You don't
I have
one?
one, but I don't know if I can commit to it, which is that I think we're going to see a three-peat. My problem is that my only problem with the Lightning is that I don't know how they replace the checking line. Like, the core is there, and the core hasn't played a lot of games in the last 2 years. When we talk about like dynasties, they ain't play 82 in either of the last 2 seasons. In Kucherov's case, I think he played like 6 because it was the injury nonsense. But to replace what they had in Coleman, Gord, and Gaudreau, it'll be very tough. And not only tough because that is a line they could throw out there against the other team's top lines and get production from them, but it was when they scored. You think about the runs they've had in the last 2 years. Think about how many goals Blake Coleman scored that were enormous, or Gord scored that were enormous, and like very tight, low-scoring contests. I don't know how they repeat that. But everybody else has got a thing about them I don't like, and I like almost everything about the Lightning except for the lack of having that checking line anymore.
Now you have your ear.
So if I had to make a point, if I had to hot shot it right now, I'd say the Lightning.
Now you have a lot of inside information that I do not have. Was there anything over the summer you heard from the Rangers that was an interesting rumor that didn't come to fruition or anything?
No, I heard a ton of stuff about the Rangers, but nothing internal with the Rangers. They're running a bit of a tighter ship there than they have in previous years. Trying to think if there was anything in particular. No, not really. I mean, outside of the Eichel buzz, there wasn't really much there beyond that.
It seems like Chris Drew is running a pretty tight ship there now.
He is, and by design. They're an interesting team. They're an interesting team. I'm still in many ways trying to wrap my brains around the implosion last year of that management group and everything else that went along with it. But I think there's a lot of teams in this league that would cast a jealous eye at the roster the Rangers have right now. And it's just a matter of whether or not a different coach and some additions down the lineup can help them coalesce. Because I don't think that they defend at an NHL championship level yet, or even at an NHL playoff level yet. If they can fix that in front of that goaltending, they're going to be a real team to watch. I think not only this season, but in seasons to come.
Well, Greg, thanks so much for taking the time, and looking forward to seeing you coverage on ESPN all year long.
You got it. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
What an awesome interview. I can't thank Greg enough for coming on, taking the time. The guy's so busy. He writes so many articles for ESPN. He's on like 7 different podcasts. The guy is just a machine of content, everything hockey. we'll give him a pass for growing up as a Devils fan. I think he's still a Devils fan, so give him a pass there. But awesome interview, awesome guy. Make sure you go check out all his articles on ESPN.com and his podcasts. I really can't thank him enough for taking the time out of his very busy day. And our next guest, Arda Ocal. I remember Arda back when he was on MSG, doing the hockey show with Anson Carter. Arda's an awesome follow too on social media. He's got dad jokes on TikTok. He's got a really good Instagram. He's got a great Twitter. He does everything, this guy. I mean, he does Sports Center, Sports Nation. He's going to be hosting NHL shows. He's going to be doing play-by-play. I think Ryan Callahan is going to be doing his first game with him. It'd be so cool to have Callahan and him teamed up. Arda used to do, he was the host of the Rangers Town for when they had the playoff games. So I probably saw him there as well. What an awesome guy. We talk about everything. Video games, Rangers, season, anything you could think of. Arda and I talked about it. The guy sat down in a Rangers starter jacket. He's wearing a Colton Orr NHL 94 Rangers t-shirt. Talk about him wearing Adam Graves socks while he's hosting SportsCenter. Guy is unbelievable. But before we start to interview Arda, I want to tell you about another sponsor of ours, La Terrain Watches. It's almost holiday season. Christmas is right around the corner, so make sure you go check out LaTerrainWatches.com. Enter the code Broadway10 for 10% off the entire site. No matter what it is on the site, you enter Broadway10, you're getting 10% off. I mean, these are unbelievable watches. Go in there and check it out. They're really well, they're so well priced for what you're, like, the quality of the watch you're getting. It's not just watches. While it's anything you can find on that website, it's all extremely good quality, great pricing, and even better when you type in the Broadway 10 promo code as well. So make sure you go shopping soon. I mean, we're almost, hockey season's here. It's in October. Before you know it, Thanksgiving will be here, and you're going to be, oh, crap, I need to get Christmas gifts. So make sure you go on LaTerrain.com, go check out their website, and type in Broadway 10 for 10% off anything on their site. We are now joined by a very special guest, a guy who I've been watching for years. He used to be on the MSG hockey show. He is now a host on pretty much anything on ESPN. You'll see his face everywhere. He's a member of the new NHL ESPN team, Arda Ocal. Thanks so much for joining us.
I'm very happy to be here. Don't forget the MSG 150s, okay?
Sorry,
when Bill Pito couldn't do it because he's a very busy guy. We got a situation here. I would fill in on the 150s on the Rangers. They would actually ask me, which one would you rather do? Would you rather do the Knicks or the Rangers 150? I've done a bunch of both, but I would always pick the Rangers one first because hockey highlights are so much more fun to call. In my humble opinion.
Do they have a shot clock on you?
Yeah, no, I'd always know.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it's the MSG 150. It's not the MSG 152.
No, I'm saying, was there a giant shot clock that you're looking at the entire time, or is it like?
Oh, no. It would be the monitor. You would have the monitor, or like the producer would be in your ear telling you, "Hey, you got a minute left, 50 seconds left, whatever."
There
should be though. That's a good call.
We should have like a
giant. Yeah, there should be. And then there's a buzzer or a trap door when it hits zero if you keep talking.
Bill just go down. You lived out my dream a couple weeks ago. You hosted SportsCenter. Mm-hmm. Which I think is any kid's sports dream, the host SportsCenter.
Yeah.
In Adam Graves socks, my most favorite Ranger of all time, one of the best guys ever.
Yeah.
When I saw you post that, I was like, oh my God.
So I mean, I'm a wacky socks guy. I have a bunch of their Socky Hall of Fame, I believe is what they're called. And I have a bunch of them. I also have Messier ones. And then there's a bunch of other ones from a whole ton of teams that people can buy. But I mean, like, I like being the first to do things, no matter how random it is. And I can guarantee you, in SportsCenter's 40+ year history, Kyle, I am the first anchor to ever host SportsCenter wearing Adam Graves socks. I dare you to find someone else that has done that. Am I also the first one to wear a amazing New York Rangers starter jacket for an interview here? Okay.
Yes,
can I just show the back? I have to take this off because like I'm really hot in this.
There's a 94.
Oh yeah, we'll get to this in a second. There's a story behind this, but look at the back of this jacket. This is like look at this. It's amazing. Starter jackets are the best. They are the absolute best. So anyway, I'm going to put this aside.
Now,
yes,
is that an
Sharks
original
starter.
starter jacket or is that a new starter jacket?
It's a new. I think it's a new. They
The
basically
newer, okay.
relaunched the whole.
Yeah.
Like what's new is old. It's not like from '94.
Okay.
I think it's from a couple years ago that they've made it look that way. So this is a Rangers fans might see this scene as familiar. So this is a Colton Orr, friend of mine, worked with him a bunch, knocking out Todd Fedoruk. I'm sure many Rangers fans remember this. So the reason we did this is because you may or may not know, Colton Orr is really good at NHL 94.
I did not know that.
He is very good at this game. He grew up playing it with his family, his brother. He loves playing the game. In fact, one year he came out to a tournament. I was hosting a retro convention on Long Island, and he came out to compete in the tournament, and he got to like the semifinals. Like just randomly, like people were like, "Is that Colton Orr?" Like he just showed up to play. It was like the greatest thing ever. And so we made shirts to commemorate it. And so this is like the NHL 94 inspired Orzi knocking out like one of his famous career moments. So that's why I have this.
I love that. That's awesome. I can see Colton Orr just fighting with people too at that convention as well. Like, he starts losing, drops his
and
sticks.
He just starts dropping. He has gloves. Obviously, why would he not?
Yeah.
That he always. The funny story. So like in 2017, the playoff run that the Rangers had, right? They played the Habs in the first round. The Senators. Yeah, the Senators in the second round. So that playoff stretch, I was working with the Rangers at that time. So I was with MSG. We just finished the hockey show season 1, doing a bunch of like Rangers broadcast stuff. And then they had the giant tent. It was like Rangersville. Rangerstown. Yeah, exactly. So they had a whole tent there, and I was basically their MC the whole time. And so like that's where I basically met Colton and all the other alumni that would come through. We'd had a stage and telling stories. So his story that I love is he trained a lot with Brian McGrattan. They were buddies, but they knew they were going into a game the next day. This was during the regular season at some point, and McGrattan texts him and says, "Hey, we have to fight tomorrow, but I have a new move I'm gonna test on you." And so Orzi's thinking about this, like, okay, I guess I'm gonna watch out for this new move that you got, right? So the next day, they get into the game, they drop the gloves, they fight, and Colton breaks his nose. Lands a punch, breaks McGrattan's nose. And so after the fight, I think in the penalty box, Orzi turns to him and goes, "So is that your new move? Me breaking your nose?" I'm like, that's a great story, Orzi. I love it. It's crazy.
Talking about the Rangers, who's your favorite all-time Ranger?
Adam Graves. I mean, that's a sentimental, obviously. I also, the late great Rod Gilbert I loved going to. So like my picks are more like sentimental, obviously, because I got to know a lot of the alumni very well. We were just talking about this before we started the podcast. Like you cannot find a better athlete in any sport than Adam Graves. Like I've heard so many stories of him going well above and beyond anything necessary for any celebrity or athlete in order to leave a lasting impression, whether it's like, we've heard of many athletes doing hospital visits and doing good vibes things. And trust me, this should not be diminished, but I just want to compare that to what Adam does. Like Adam goes above and beyond, keeps in touch with families, goes out of his way to people's homes I've heard like musicians meet him and say, "Hey, I'm in a band." And all of a sudden Adam Graves shows up at their concert. You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of guy that he is. And he has a yearly charity event. I grew up in a town outside of Toronto called Oakville. He does a yearly charity event there now. Where it's like a 24-hour game-a-thon where a bunch of people just show up because they want to support him because he's such a great guy. So Graves, I mean, he was a heartbeat of the franchise too. Like he's just a lovable character for any Rangers fan. A lot of people will point to, people like Mark Messier or Brian Leach or Mike Richter. And like, they're all great picks. I mean, any number in the rafters, Lundqvist included this season, and now we finally know what day that's going to happen. Those are all great choices.
Yeah, I think you brought up Roger Bear's name. I met him a couple times. Again, the nicest man. Loved talking about Rangers hockey. Always smiling. And
he loved it. Like it was his identity. That's the thing that I loved. Like he truly, like he grew up in Montreal, right? Like Montreal is a diehard hockey town. We all know this, and like they're Habs fans. Like the Habs fans are very passionate fans. Right. And that's like the number one thing in Quebec, right? Like that is the Montreal Canadiens are like religion to people in Quebec and to Habs fans. But when he became a Ranger and what he was able to accomplish there, like that, like he just completely, that became his identity and he loved it. Like I could see it in his face talking to Rangers fans. He would spend hours just like he loved to tell stories, but he also just loved to talk about the team. Like that's how much he cared. So that's what stuck with me.
Yeah, 100%. And so the Rangers had their golf outing this last week, and Adam was actually the one who took over the mic and kind of gave a tribute. And I thought it was so fitting because those two guys just really, you think of heart and soul Rangers. Like those are the two guys that I think, I know Rod is known as Mr. Ranger, but I think Adam's right there for, the heart and soul of a Ranger. And like, he was like, I think his whole retirement thing was like the heart of a Ranger was his whole thing. And I think he's going to be that kind of guy for this next generation that's going to take over that, that kind of not celebrity, but kind of like, that the face of the franchise from a alumni standpoint.
Yeah.
You're the voice of the NHL Gaming World Championships, which I feel like has really taken off. That's how you and I first connected because we were trying to figure out something about the World Championships there. I didn't really get into it until this last season, watching you and Nasher and, following along there. But talk about the growth that you've seen in the gaming world and especially from the NHL side.
It's been great. We've been doing it since 2018 now. We just finished season 4. There's been a lot of interest and it is growing, not only in audience, but also in the amount of people that are interested in participating. And I feel like this year is going to be really, really interesting because the game has fundamentally changed with the inclusion of X factors and also the animations. It's not easy to do cross-crease one-timers, which was really the best way. And
that's the only way
in many games, the only way to score, again, especially when you get to that level of competition. And so I'm proud of it because like I've been there since day one. Myself and Nasher, as many people know, he's a hockey YouTuber. He's a content creator. He's a streamer. Now he's just signed with TNT as well. He's going to help launch their hockey vertical with Bleacher Report, which is fantastic. He's going to absolutely crush that. He is a great he's a great guy. And he's also a fantastic content creator. And the world of hockey is better off with him in it. And we've been there since day one. We've seen the growth. We've seen how now clubs are starting to get invested too. I actually have something to show you. This is something that's never been seen. So this is like a Rangers specific thing. Okay. Hang on one second. I love how I brought, who am I? Like the carrot.
You got props here tonight. Yeah.
Like, what
great.
am I? So this is a sign. It says Rangers Gaming on it. Okay. So this event never happened. This is not something that actually happened. It was supposed to happen. So initially what was going to happen was so on top of the NHL Gaming World Championship, every club has a tournament that they do. So basically this season in the GWC, we had club champions. Before it was by country, right? We had a Canadian champion, US champion, European champion, but now we have a Rangers champion, a Devils champion, an Islanders champion, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? What that might lead to, and I don't know this for sure, but what that might lead to is the clubs dealing with that themselves, crowning a champion. Then they all go into let's crown a NHL champion, so to speak, or a world champion, whatever. But for the last few years, teams have had their own tournaments. So like I do a lot of stuff with the Columbus Blue Jackets and CVJ Gaming, for example, and a lot of other clubs have tournaments. The Rangers were supposed to have their own tournament. Unfortunately, it never materialized. What it did end up happening was when Brady Shea was still with the team, we did this content activation with Knicks Gaming in the NBA 2K League where they all played each other's games. So they played NBA 2K, they played NHL, and it was fun. They had us in the Renaissance in the hotel Midtown, and it was in a room, and they just basically did a whole day's worth of content. It was a lot of fun, but it wasn't a tournament. So this was the only thing. I actually stole it, so I'm not going to give it back. But I kind of 5-finger discounted this from the set, and I've kept it as a keepsake. So it's so that's something that I don't think many people have seen.
Can you see the NHL going towards, like you just brought up the Knicks Gaming, where they have a team like that? Can you see that happening where there's an actual Rangers gaming team?
Mm-hmm. I can see. So basically there's 2 major modes that you compete in NHL video games. 1v1, which is what the NHL Gaming World Championships is, but there's also major 6v6. So everyone assumes a position in the game. I could see that happening. I think that the NHL is focusing more on 1v1 right now. Could I see them launching a 6v6 if the demand is there, if there are enough participants at that level to want to compete? If obviously sales, advertising, prize money, if that all comes together, then certainly. But I think the NHL right now, anyway, or at least from what I've seen, is focused on the 1v1 competition. And honestly, it's been growing every year. So for me, I'm optimistic that the sky's the limit for NHL esports because I truly believe in that scene. I really feel like there's still more growth to be had. And especially now where you see the NHL, especially in America with ESPN and TNT, assuming the rights for the next several years, like I'm really optimistic about hockey as a whole and how it will grow, particularly in the United States. And esports will certainly be a part of that as well.
Yeah. What's your favorite video game to play?
Oh man, there's so many. I mean, you can see my background, right? Like
Yeah,
I'm a nerd.
yeah.
I'm a complete nerd, dude. Like I'm an old school gamer. My favorite hockey game, believe it or not, was NHL 2-on-2 Open Ice Challenge.
Okay.
That was an arcade game from way back in the day. And it was basically NBA Jam right here, right? NBA Jam, but hockey. And like you take a slap shot with a flaming puck.
I was
and
on the net,
in flames.
net will light up. Yeah.
Outstanding. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
But NHL 94 is the legendary one that they even have world championships for that I've been a part of, which is absolutely incredible. But yeah, dude, I'm a retro gamer. Anything Nintendo as well. Like Breath of the Wild to me is one of the best games ever made. And any Mario title, anything Nintendo really. But I keep up with it. Like I haven't bought a PS5 or a Xbox Series X just yet, but I definitely will. And yeah, man, total gamer, total nerd over here.
You got to work into your gaming contract. You know, you got to get all the new consoles. You got to get, you know what I mean? You
Yeah,
got
send
to
them to
get
me,
that
exactly.
sense here.
If you're watching this,
hey,
Sony,
EA, hey, EA.
get him. I got space right here. Yeah, exactly.
Go back to Sports Center. So you hosted Sports Center many times. I've seen you on there, seen you on Sports Nation a bunch. What kind of can you just walk me through like the background of like the behind the scenes of the prep work that goes into a Sports Center episode?
Yeah, absolutely. So I get there several hours before, and basically there's a whole great behind the scenes team, production, producers and directors and statisticians, segment producers, coordinating producers, etc. That basically put the show together, create a skeleton outline. And then from there, I see what I'm assigned. Okay, I have this game, I have that game, I have this intro, I have this on cam, etc. And that's where my prep begins. So I basically, if I have the opportunity to look at the highlight, I look at the highlight. Sometimes that's not possible just due to timing, but I try to prepare as much as possible. We get shot sheets for each highlight, which is basically, you know, a step-by-step on what's happening, etc. And that's where your creativity comes in. Okay, what nugget can I put here? What piece of information that's interesting to the viewer? Because at the end of the day, that's how we have to be thinking. What would be interesting to the people watching at home? What do they care about? What would make their experience watching this more like enrich them more and give them information that leaves them saying, oh, cool. Okay. I learned something, or I'm entertained, you know, something like that. So sometimes it's a one-liner if it's organic and natural. Other times it's a stat, whether I find it or our great stats and information group finds it, things like that. So I basically spend the next several hours preparing, writing scripts, on camera tosses to features, etc. You know, sometimes you get to be creative. Like I remember I did the on camera toss to remember the cat at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami that was dangling from the balcony and fell into the American flag as people were holding it. Like I had a lot of fun with that. I was like, you know, fell into the warm, comfortable, caring embrace of Old Glory. You know, like ham it up sometimes if it's possible. And especially hockey. Like I mean, I constantly like it's almost a running joke at ESPN whenever I'm working on something. It's like, oh boy, here come the hockey pitches. You know, like I'm just gonna continuously pitch random hockey things as I see them. And honestly, like with this new era of hockey, like you're going to see a lot more hockey content. I mean, we just announced The Point, for example, with Bucci hosting, and that's going to be a weekly show that you're going to see a lot of storytelling, different features across the league, whether we're previewing games or we're giving you human interest stories. Like that's going to be really interesting stuff that I would say hockey fans have really been clamoring for, but also they're going to get things that they didn't even think about, which I'm super, super excited for.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that. So ESPN now has, you know, part of the rights to the NHL package now. How excited are you just to cover this season? Because I mean, you know, ESPN hasn't had the rights for so many years, and that's gotta be. We were talking beforehand about the intro video that ESPN just released for the upcoming season. It's spine chilling. You know, it's such a great intro for that. So how excited are you for this year?
I'm extremely excited. I couldn't be more excited. This is exactly where I want to be in my career, in all honesty. to be able to work on hockey. And I'm going to be in the mix this year, which I'm extremely excited for. So I get to, whether it's hosting some game broadcasts, you'll see me on some game broadcasts on ESPN Plus, for example, whether it's hosting In the Crease, I'll be in the mix there as well, which is a nightly recap show. If there's one show that will get you completely caught up on all the highlights from every single hockey game that happened the previous night, In the Crease is it. Whether it's contributing to the point, like I said, with Bucci hosting, whether I'm filling in or whether I'm contributing features, you'll see me there. And there's a lot of yet to be announced stuff that I'm extremely excited about that I can't announce here just quite yet, but you might see it in the upcoming days or weeks as we get into the start of the season. That will be more content for hockey fans. So I am thrilled at what's coming up. And honestly, for me, like to be able to do all hockey at ESPN that I'm able to do and still contribute anchoring Sports Center, doing things on the digital side, like contributing to Sports Nation and hosting Sports Center on Snapchat. Like this is an absolute dream come true for me. So, I mean, this hockey is really my biggest passion in terms of sports. I don't think that's a secret at all. And for me to be able to finally do it at ESPN it's surreal. This is incredible. And the other thing is, like, I've never really been a part of the beginning of something. Do you know what I mean? Like, This is the launch, the
start.
point.
Yeah,
exactly. So I'm particularly excited about that because I get to, even in small part, have a role in something that is at its birth, and to be able to help it grow, and with all the excitement around it, particularly in the hockey community, that is a lot of fun.
I feel like you'd be more creative that way too. You can, try out different segments. It's not just, I feel like and not to bash NBC, I thought they did a good job, that they had good stuff, but they had the same segments over and over again. So seeing you guys, TNT, come in, I think it's great to kind of get a fresh perspective on the NHL. And
I'm not one to bash. Like, I'm not one to bash any competitors, but I will say that ESPN, like, talking about even conversations that I've had, like, there are a lot of creative people that love hockey at ESPN, and they've been there for a very long time, right? Yeah. It's just now that we have the platform and the opportunity to be able to execute some of these things, I am super pumped for what hockey fans will be seeing throughout the season.
Anytime you get more Barry Melrose is always a good thing.
He's the best. He is the best. He is so, like, I got to watch the Stanley Cup Finals with him and Levy, and it was the best. It was just so much fun. Like, that green room, like, just to hear them, like, trade hockey stories. Like, they owned a hockey team together once upon a time. Like, this is crazy. Like, I just love hearing those random stories. Like, I am such a hockey history nerd. So, like, the one random thing, well, not random, but like the theme, especially for the finals, because the Habs made it and they had the whole 93 vibes and everyone kept bringing it up. Like, I forced it in once a show on In the Crease, because him and I did In the Crease throughout the whole playoffs. And I'm just like, Barry, 93 Habs. Like, I just bring it up all the time because obviously he coached the Kings in that series and lost. And he'd just like be like, yeah. You're going to do this all playoffs? And I'm like, yes. So anyway, let's get to comments from just like dig at him just a little bit. And he just loved it with a laugh and a rolling of his eyes,
So the other good thing, other unbelievable thing, is I saw your picture with your new teammate, Mark Messier.
Yes.
I mean, that's got to be such a thrill working with him.
So the story of that picture is hilarious because we were just doing random photos. And so I had packed my ESPN hockey jersey. I have two of them. And I love scouring eBay for random old and flea markets. Love them both. Just to find old random hockey stuff I didn't know existed. Right. And I grew up in Canada. So like I grew up on TSN and Sportsnet and like Canadian hockey coverage. Right. So I didn't know that ESPN hockey jerseys existed. I just was looking through random ESPN merch on eBay and I found them and I was like, I absolutely need this. Like, this is a no-brainer. So I just instantly, I didn't even bid. I didn't even haggle. I was just like, buy now. Like, I didn't even bother. I'm like, yeah, buy now, whatever. I don't care. So I got it. And then I'm like, I packed it with me to Chicago where we had our ESPN NHL broadcast meetings. That's where basically it was almost like the first day of school where you met like every other talent. There was like 70 people in this room. And so we were taking pictures and I had this jersey on. And Messier was ahead of me and he was on the other station and he looks over and he walks over as I'm like taking these ridiculous pictures. Like I'm posing. Yeah, look at me. Yeah, I'm the best. right? And he looks at me and he's like, do I get one of those? And I'm like, you probably get like 10 of these if you want. Like, I'm pretty sure you'd get sorted if we get, I don't even know if we're getting new hockey jerseys, but then I'm like, can we take a picture? And he's like, absolutely. And then he comes in and he just like hugs and he just like points it. I'm just like, this is hilarious. Like, what a life. This is great. He's awesome. Like he was it was great to meet with him and chat with him and everything. And we have a lot of great people on our team, honestly. Like, I'm super pumped for the talent that ESPN has been able to put together. I mean, there's so many, like, not only just like brilliant and talented people in hockey, but just like great people and also like really good at their jobs. So I'm super stoked.
Yeah, Messier last year, he had a lot of comments about the Rangers, whole situation with JD and Gorton. And then it was kind of like, oh, is he positioning himself to take over the team? And he says, no. And then sure enough, a month later or so when ESPN starts rolling, no, Messier should be, is going there as an analyst. It was kind of like, okay, yeah, maybe he wasn't trying to take over the team. Maybe he was just trying to put his name back out there for a media side. And sure enough, now he's going to be on there. I tell you what, having Messier on ESPN and Gretzky on TNT, I mean, two of the most, I would say at least top 5 for Messier. Obviously, Wayne's probably the greatest player of all time, but just unbelievable talent to just learn and hear the game from. It's incredible.
Yeah, especially if they let loose and they get into their groove. Like, that is a difficult, especially for somebody who has not done analyst work before. That can be a very, like, you have to prepare for that job, right? Like, you can definitely talk off the cuff and, you've played hockey lifelong and you have to want to be in that position, right? You have to want to present and give your opinion and have strong opinions, but also have the facts to support it and back it up, right? For me, like, my job is really as a point guard is to set them up to succeed, right? Like, I make sure that they are put in positions such that they will be able to shine and flourish, because at the end of the day, that's who you're tuning in for. You're tuning in the best intermission segments that I can host are ones where the analysts give you really interesting information, or they're really entertaining such that you leave it thinking, wow, I learned something here, or oh, that was funny. So that's at least my goal when I'm working with the analysts that I'm going to get to work with. Like, for example, one of the games that I have coming up, I'll be working with Ryan Callahan, which I'm super excited about. Like, we had a chance to meet for the first time in Chicago. We went to dinner and in a group, and we're sitting beside each other and we're just like talking back and forth, just typical hockey stuff or life stuff. And that was great. Like, I'm like, yeah, I'm super stoked to work with him. I'm really excited to get started there. So, but there's going to be some announcements as well coming up in terms of pairings and who will be working with whom in studio, etc. That's not for me to reveal, so I can't do that here, unfortunately. Sorry, Kyle, but that will come up at some point in the future, definitely before the season starts. But there's going to be some really, really, I think there's some really fun segments and pairings to look forward to. That'll be very great. That'll be great.
Will there be a Rangers captain's corner with the two of them? And if it's not, I want credit for it if ESPN comes up with it.
Okay, I'll be sure to push for credit for you specifically if that happens.
Rangers
I'm not sure, but
corner.
Rangers, yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
And we can only hire Rangers captains for that moving forward.
Exactly.
Yeah, it can only be Rangers captain.
Get McDonough in there
next.
though.
No assistants. Yeah. Only the C. Only the C. Yeah. Got it.
Gravy wore the C for a little bit there as an interim. So maybe get him in. Get Leachy in there, get some
interim
counts. There's a lot of guys.
Interim
counts. Yeah. Rangers offseason. What do you think of the moves they made? Obviously, they got tougher, putting a more emphasis on the younger guys now up front. What do you think of all the moves?
I like them. I think they needed that tough. Ryan Reeves is such a menacing presence on the ice, right? The Tom Wilson kryptonite. Like, I can't wait for that first game. That's going to be incredible to see exactly how that shakes down, right? But they have a really interesting core. Like, listen, last season they would have made the playoffs if the alignments were different, right? Like, they are definitely a team. I am predicting them to make the playoffs this year. I think they do make the playoffs. I think Shesterkin will be a big question mark. Like, if he has a really good season, if he is solid between the pipes, I think that this team will be much better off. And I think he has the capacity and the capability to do that. And I think Georgiev will be able to fill in certain games when relied upon and when called upon. So if that goaltender tandem shines bright this season, I think that that's where it starts, and the Rangers are going to be set on a great course. Panarin's one of the most exciting players in the league. Everyone knows this, and I think that he's playing really well with Strome. I think that that's a really good chemistry combination there. I really like the toughness and the strength that they added there. I think Gerard Gallant will be a great addition there as part of the coaching staff to lead the charge there, to develop the younger players. We still have the reigning Norris. By the way, him and speaking of Orr, Bobby Orr were the only two that have won the Norris Trophy so early in their careers. Right? I think it's like year 2 or something.
Can we just speak about all the disrespect that Adam Fox still gets? Your boys over at EA Sports, 87 overall. I mean, come on.
We got to talk to them. We got to tag EA Sports and be like, hey, come on, Norris Trophy here. And funny you should mention that, because who was it? What is the name of? Oh my God, I'm blanking. Justin Tucker, is it the kicker?
The kicker for Baltimore.
Just kicked the 66-yard field goal, and just based on that kick, and I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it. Hall of Fame kick right there, like that's the highlight that's going to get him into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, no doubt, right? Where there's so few kickers to begin with. I think there's only like 4 of them or something like that. His overall rating for a limited time in Madden right now is 99 because of that kick. So we just need one highlight from Adam Fox, like some like end-to-end goal, like Bobby Orr style.
The one from Nelson, New Jersey. Come on, that should have been good enough.
Get him into the 99 club. Let's go.
I always saw the 87. I was like, and there's all these I see on Twitter all the time, and NHL.com puts it out. Everyone puts it out. And it's like, oh, who's your top 5 defensemen? And he's not even on the list. Yeah, I think he was just ranked 22nd overall. I'm like, come on, what else does this guy have to do?
He's got to, yeah, exactly. But listen, the defense core, Jacob Trouba there as well. I think that the defense core is one, especially those two. Like, there's definitely some good players in the mix there. I'm going to also look at the 2 young draft picks, right? Capo Caco, Alexis Lafreniere. Like, I'm going to be looking at them this year, and I'm going to like, okay, Capo Caco had an improvement since year 1. Still not, I think, where Rangers fans would want him to be. And I think that they would say the same for Lafreniere. But like, that's what you get being a number 1 pick, though. Like, that's the problem, right? Like, this always happens with every number 1 pick. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you're a number 1 pick, and you're going to, like, here's a perfect example. Do you remember the year the Devils had the number 1 pick? Not the Jack Hughes year, the one before that with Nico Hischier and Nolan Patrick, right?
Yes.
So they basically that year, those 2 players, like Nolan Patrick was the consensus number 1 overall pick going into the year. Then he had injury troubles, and Nico Hischier had a spectacular year in juniors, before coming to the NHL. And basically he leapfrogged himself into that number 1 conversation. And of course, the Devils ended up picking Hischier, right? So what I'm saying is people will look at Nico Hischier and scrutinize him more than Nolan Patrick, but it would have been the reverse if Nolan Patrick was selected first. And imagine the conversation we'd be having about Nolan Patrick being traded, et cetera. His journey in the NHL so far, et cetera. If he was the number 1 pick, it would be more under a microscope than it is right now. Right?
Yeah.
Than Nico Hischier, the kind of attention he's getting. So that is the power that number 1 has. And that's what Lafreniere is experiencing right now. But with that said, from all I've heard from people who cover the team, they feel like both of those players, Lafreniere in particular, are primed to have, I guess, what you would call breakout years or having career years. And really, okay, when we look back on this season, if all goes well for both of those players, you're going to look back and say, that's what we were expecting from these 2 players.
I am very high on Lafreniere this year. I think that last year with COVID, the weird training camps that happened, the not selling into his apartment until 2 weeks before the season even started as an 18-year-old in New York City. I just think having a full off season, he put on a bunch of weight this week. Him and Kako both put on weight this offseason, but he said he gets faster as well. And I think Kako is going to be a very good.
How about that? Bigger and faster.
Yeah, bigger and faster. That's pretty good.
Yeah, not bad.
I mean, again, he's 19 years old. You got to fill into yourself a little bit.
He's 19. He can do that. That's the worst part. Like when you're 19 years old, you can get bigger and faster.
Yeah, when you hit your 30s, it's you just get bigger. You don't get any faster.
Who's definitely not saying that is Zdeno Chara. As he's going into Islanders camp, I'm certain he's not saying, yeah, I gained a few pounds and I'm definitely faster on the. I don't think that he's necessarily saying that.
Maybe not for Chara, but But yeah, I think the two of them, I think Kakko, really the two of them are going to be the whole turning point for the Rangers season, getting rid of Buchnevich. Where do you get that production from? It's going to be those two. And kind of the whole Rangers offseason is leaning on those two to be a top 6 players and come in and contribute offensively. And Kakko really defensively. It looks like Kakko might be getting some looks on the penalty kill as well.
That is one thing. Like last season, he seemed to improve defensively.
Yeah.
Kakko did. If there was one area that you'd be like, actually, I like the back check here. I like how he's responsible in his own zone. That's one thing you would say about Kakko from last season.
Yeah, I think he was top 10 in takeaways too for forwards. I mean, he had a very good defensive season. So I think this year he's going to kind of take more of maybe a penalty killing role, more of a defensive responsibility in his defensive zone. Lafreniere, I think you almost got to see 30 goals out of him for this Rangers team to be successful, especially if he's playing top line minutes where it looks like he's going to be slotted. Right now they have him playing with Zibanejad and Kreider, but one of them has to play the right side. We'll see which one does that. Looks like more Kreider, but it's a big gamble that Chris Drury is taking, sending away a Pavel Buchnevich, who is a proven top 6 player, very dependable in both zones. And leaning on these young kids, but eventually you got to do it, right? Exactly. You gotta eventually give these kids, let them play a little bit.
And then now the opportunity is there, and Chris Drury looked at the lineup and he said, "This is the year that I can rely on these two. I feel like I've seen enough, and now I'm going to give them that opportunity to shine."
Yep.
And they either fall on their shield or they excel, and that's exactly what you would want.
What's your biggest NHL hot take coming this year?
The biggest NHL hot take that I have. I would say, I get the Kraken are going to make the playoffs. I don't think that's much of a hot take, but they're definitely making the playoffs. I like their defensive core. I like their goaltending tandem. It's one of the best in the league. I think their goaltending tandem
is very good.
Of Grubauer and Drieger is amazing. Drieger was a low-key, incredible goaltender all year last year. So I love that. They're also going to have they better have amazing production. So Vegas, to me, set the bar for game presentation. Right? I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
Fantastic job. But when you have Jerry Bruckheimer in your list of ownership, in your front office, you better have the best production in the league. I expect nothing less than S tier, A+ level quality from the Seattle Kraken. That expectation is there. That expectation is there. A hot take would be, I am still concerned about the Olympics. So I understand the whole situation. The players want to go. The NHL has conceded in certain things. However, the whole conversation about COVID, et cetera. I think it's a big question mark still, right? We are assuming a lot, right? For all we know, there could be another variant that comes along and things could completely derail. We just don't know. I'm not putting that in the universe. I'm just saying we don't know what's going to happen in terms of COVID in the next couple months. It could get much better. There could be, it could get better. It could get worse. We don't know. So I'm not getting my hopes up about the Olympics just yet, because I will not do that. I have told myself I will not get excited. I want the Olympics to happen. I am on team. Let's see the Olympics. I was happy. Watching the NHL players compete at the Olympics have been some of the best and most fond sports memories for me as a sports fan, as a hockey fan. Okay. I loved 2002. I'm sorry, Richter diving across the net in that goal. That one goal, it was, what is it? Through Lemieux's legs to Paul Correa, USA, Canada, 2002.
Yeah.
What a goal. Lemieux, come on. And Richter diving across. Anyway, I'm sorry. I didn't want to bring that up.
Yeah, that's a bad memory. It's all right. Yeah. I had Theo Fleury on. Theo talked about it for 5 minutes about what an unbelievable game it was, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. You won a gold medal, Theo. Congratulations. Good job.
Let's go, man. I love it. But anyway, I do want that to happen. I'm cautiously optimistic, but I will not get my hopes up fully until the NHL players are there and we see them on the ice competing in the Olympics, if safe to do so, if all the stars align. Players obviously want to go, so let's see.
I had John Shannon on the show, and I told him, I said, I am so pro players going to the Olympics, and he's not. He likes the amateurs going or the non-NHL players going because he just thinks the Stanley Cup should be the ultimate goal for these guys at the end of the day. But I just love
it.
It still is. Yeah. He just thinks maybe you jeopardize that those 3 weeks maybe jeopardize an injury or you jeopardize whatever.
Mm.
I like the fact that I want to see, selfishly, world best on best. I want to see USA, Canada. I want to see the Russian players. I want to see Team Sweden out there. I want to see all these great countries and every time I have a guy on the show who's played for Team USA, played in Olympics or a world championship, they always say that one of their biggest, accomplishments of their career was putting on that USA jersey or putting on that Team Canada jersey. And you just, their faces always light up when they talk about, representing their country. So I'm excited. Like you said, I want to get my hopes up. I already wrote an article about Team USA's possible team. So obviously I'm very excited for it, but I hope it does come to fruition because it's just such an unbelievable event.
Another hot take: the Rangers, if all the stars align, if Lafreniere has a lights out year, Shesterkin becomes one of the best goaltenders in the league. Let's say he's competing for a Vezina. Okay. Let's say he has an amazing year. Okay. And the defensive core are shut down and you're getting every contribution you need. The Rangers could make a pretty good run in the playoffs. That's a decent take. And I know everyone's shining a light on the Islanders, as they should, because they're a terrific team right now. And, Lou Lamoriello has done a fantastic job at bringing that team so close to the Stanley Cup Finals. And I know a lot of people are projecting them to make the finals this year. But if all the stars align for the Rangers, they can make a deep run.
I love that. That's a great hot take.
Yeah.
I'll support that. What favorite hockey player to watch right now in the NHL?
Kaprizov is up there. Panarin is always up there. From start to finish, I mean, hard to go against McDavid too. Like, the thing is he's just so, he does things on the ice that, in your mind, you're like, oh yeah, that's logical. But it's just, other players just don't do it. You know what I mean? He just thinks of things and you're just like, if I was playing the NHL video game, that's exactly what I would do. But McDavid is actually doing it in real life, which is just what is going on here? Unbelievable. Not to be a homer because I grew up a Leafs fan. Sorry, everyone. I grew up in Toronto. But Austin Matthews has this wicked wrist shot that's so deceptive. I just like watching the mechanics of his wrist shot. Sometimes it looks like he's leaning on his stick and shooting in a way that you're just how did the puck go that way? You know what I mean? It's just the deception of his shots are amazing. Nathan McKinnon, now the added element of he doesn't eat junk food. I love that he's just let's put this story to rest, okay, people? But he's one of those complete play. I think that McKinnon doesn't really okay, you and I as hockey fans, the hockey bubble, we give McKinnon his flowers because we know he's a good player, okay? But I would argue that outside of the hardcore hockey fan, I don't think McKinnon gets as much credit as he deserves because he hasn't gotten that true playoff success yet. Right? Because people are still going to be pointing to the superstars being McDavid, Matthews, and Crosby, Ovechkin. Right?
Yeah, no, 100% correct.
So McKinnon, it kind of gets lost in the shuffle sometimes, but he might be the most complete player in the NHL today. Right? He has that much cachet to him. He just doesn't get the attention that he necessarily deserves.
Kind of gets lost out in Colorado out there too. I mean, even these last playoffs, it was so, obviously having the fans back was great listening, but just watching those last playoffs, I just watched him a lot. And it's he just, every shift that he goes out there, the whole team just it's a lift. The entire team is just lifted. It's unbelievable. And he's so fast. It's crazy how fast. Him and McDavid's so fast too, but.
Can I actually, I will say one thing. So I've seen in Oilers preseason games, the combination of McDavid and Zach Hyman, if they stay together for the regular season. So one thing that's sneaky good about Zach Hyman is that he didn't score all that much with the Leafs, but when he scored, it was a highlight reel. He was just a sporadic highlight reel generation machine, I guess is a good way to say it. Now imagine him and McDavid together. I feel that's going to be some Sports Center top 10 stuff. I feel them together is going to be very flashy. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing if that sticks together and if what we see from them this season as a tandem as well.
Your Stanley Cup prediction.
My Stanley Cup prediction is going to be the Colorado Avalanche get out of their funk and they're going to make the Stanley Cup final. They're going to figure it out. Nathan McKinnon is going to will them to the final. Now, on the other side, oh man, a lot of people would say the Islanders. on the other side. I think that's a fair pick. That would be my working title right now.
Okay.
Colorado and the Islanders would be my working go for. But going back to my hot take, Rangers have an amazing year. All of a sudden, they knock out the Islanders. How much would that fan base love that?
Oof.
And then suddenly they find themselves on a miracle run. Stranger things have happened. Now, notice I didn't mention the Maple Leafs. I was waiting for you to say so many question marks about the Maple Leafs. Now, I agree that their goaltending. I like that Jack Campbell is still there. I like that there was a switch from Freddie Anderson. He seems to be getting some good reviews, at least in the preseason with the Carolina Hurricanes. Mrazek is going to basically come into his own. Speaking of salt of the earth, nice people, we were talking about Adam Graves. Jack Campbell is listen to his comments and interviews after the playoff games, right? And I can't wait to watch the Amazon Prime series, the All or Nothing, because I hear there's a lot of Jack Campbell in there, and just even seeing these players moments after that heartbreaking series loss, right? Here's the thing, okay? And I think Rangers fans could certainly relate to this prior to 94, right? Like, if you're a Leafs fan, at this point, there's no such thing as hope, okay? Hope is not an idea that you subscribe to or that you even think about at this point, okay? Everyone knows the stats, okay? 1967, haven't won a playoff series since 2004, haven't even gotten to the second round of the playoffs since 2004. That's what I meant. Yeah. And the 5 straight years or how many straight years is it now of losing in the first round, right? Until that is broken, the only time it is acceptable for a Leafs fan to begin having hope is at the start of the second round of the playoffs. Okay, that's my hot take.
Does it happen this year?
It could. I'm not gonna say it will. Absolutely not. Definitely not putting that. Okay. Do you remember what game was it? Was it game 6 where Kotkaniemi scored? The number 15 happened like 6 times in this goal. It was like 15 minutes left in the period in overtime. He wears number 15. It was his 15th shot on net. Like, there were a lot of other number 15 coincidences. People look it up. I'm serious. It's like the scariest thing. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, that's like the most Maple Leafs way to lose ever. Like, it obviously that's how it would happen, right? So again, I'm going to say this one more time. The only time Maple Leafs fans should begin to have any faith and hope and get their hopes up, I should say, is at the beginning of the second round of the playoffs.
That's fair. I mean, I can't say it's a rough go for that fan base. I can't.
Oh my gosh!
I can't say. I mean, Ranger fan. I was too young to have the heartbreak and the agony of the 70s and 80s and the close run in 79 and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, Leafs fans, it's tough out there, and especially now that the Montreal has a lot of bragging rights. I feel like they just get crushed on Twitter every time I look at them.
I didn't mention Tampa because they're going for the 3-peat. What I love most about Barclay Goodrow, amazing addition to the Rangers. That just escaped my mind. I love him as a depth forward for the Rangers. I thought he did a lot for that Lightning team. I've known him since his junior days. So I worked in the OHL. I did a lot of games for the Brampton Battalion. So I saw Barclay Goodrow a lot. I think Rangers fans are going to love Barclay Goodrow. If he brings that same intensity, if he brings that same, like, doing the things that are not the flashy highlight reel things, but you know that he's doing a good job, like the lunch pail type stuff. Barclay Goodrow is really good at that. And he's also an identity character guy. So I really think he's going to contribute greatly to Rangers fans with a keen eye. So definitely watch out for Goodrow. I mean, obviously he did that for the Lightning, right? Here's the thing. My favorite thing of the Lightning is Corey Perry. I love it. I love that he goes 2 straight Stanley Cup finals and he's just like, all right, I'm sick of losing here. Let's just join the reigning champs. I just love it. It's like the what is it? The Kevin Durant, My Next Chapter. That's like Corey Perry, My Next Chapters. I'm joining the Lightning. Let's go. Let's get that cup. And he was so good in both of those series too, right? Like, he was one of the players that literally willed the Habs as far as they went because he was so good.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when they signed him, I think, as on a PTO, right, or whatever. It was like a veteran, it was like a second veteran contract, and then sure enough, the playoffs, he's out there doing his normal Corey Perry stuff, getting under people's skin, getting in front of the net, knocking in goals.
Looking like a vampire.
Yeah. I mean,
Unbelievable. Hey,
that was a good addition they had down there too. That was a good pickup.
And of course, our how dare I omit our true Stanley Cup champions, the Buffalo Sabres. I mean, I'm really sorry, everybody. I apologize. Okay. But the actual Stanley Cup champs.
Is that the worst run franchise in hockey?
Man, I am sad. I'm making this a lot of personal anecdotes here, but like by far the most NHL games I've seen have been in the city of Buffalo. Like, I would never be able to get tickets in Toronto growing up. You know, the teenage kid wanting to go watch hockey games. Always go to Buffalo, Key Arena, HSBC, whatever it was called at the time. Hundreds of games. And like talking to Sabres fans, I loved Sabres fans because they were just so passionate about hockey. They loved hockey. You know what I mean? Like the Bills and the Sabres were their thing. You know what I mean? So like to see what's happening now, to have the same stretch that Leafs fans had where there's like 10 seasons without making it into the postseason, and what's happening now with Jack Eichel and the whole situation unfolding before our eyes, and all the other decisions that are being made, and questions about the front office and whatever else is happening with the Sabres franchise. Like, it's very sad to see. It honestly is very sad to see, because I want those fans to have a team that they can really support and feel good about. And so, I mean, look, I hope that Eichel situation gets handled very quickly. I hope it's good for both team and for player. You know, what's happening with the medical back and forth, and which surgery is elected to be had, and et cetera, you know, Eichel switching agents, et cetera. Like, I hope this situation gets sorted, because at the end of the day, listen, you may not like the Sabres, but we need Jack Eichel in the league. Yeah. Like, he is an amazing player. We need to see him play. We do.
Talking about the Olympics now, his Olympics are in jeopardy for whatever happens if he gets surgery, whatever. Now he might not be playing for Team USA.
Exactly. So,
you're talking about your favorite player in hockey. What's your favorite player you played with in video games? Is there a team or a certain game like the 07 Capitals are my team? Is there a team where you was dominant
of all time?
Yeah, like what's your most dominant?
The Chicago Blackhawks from NHL '94. That was the only reason I liked the Blackhawks, was they were so amazing. They had like Jeremy Roenick obviously was like the player, like the Bo Jackson of NHL obviously at that time, right? And then also they had a lot of great, like Steve Larmer and Ed Belfour and Ned. Like, they had a fantastic video game team. So I definitely would say the NHL '94 Chicago Blackhawks would be like the team that I would put up against any other video game hockey team, because they were amazing. Also, Team Czechoslovakia from NES Ice Hockey, scary tough when the computer is playing them.
Okay,
is the three big guys and the one medium guy. Very difficult. Very difficult.
Very difficult against.
Yeah.
So looking at this hockey season, what's the toughest division now in hockey? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there's some great teams across the league, obviously. I would look at probably the Metro as the division, I would say, especially for like playoff bubble teams. Like, when you're looking at what the wild card race might become later stages of the season, I feel like a lot of teams from the Metro will be battling for those spots. And especially on paper, there's a lot of like question marks, like, oh, if this team does this, if goaltending improves, if this player improves, etc. Like, you can look through the list. Like, I have the Metro division up here. So the Hurricanes, to me, are a playoff team. I think they're going to be one of the top three teams, right? The Islanders are definitely, people would safely say, a lock to be one of those top three teams. And then you have like a clump of teams that, if certain things go their way, they're going to be a playoff team. Let's start with the Rangers. We just talked about it a lot, right? Goaltending, big factor. Two players, Kakko and Lafreniere. If you have like good production from the key areas that you needed with the Rangers, they could be that third team. They could be the third team in the Metro. Yeah. Or they could be in the first or second wild card spot. Then you look at the Devils, Jack Hughes, breakout year, right? Like, if he has the year that people expect him to have, and he looks very confident in preseason play, by the way, seeing some of his minutes that he's been getting and how he's been skating around the ice, he just looks like a different player, an improved player in terms of confidence. So that could be very dangerous. And of course, obviously, goaltending will be an issue there as well, or a question mark, I should say, as well. So if the stars align for the Devils, they could at least challenge for that second wild card spot, in my humble opinion. I really feel like that could be the case. Then you have the Flyers. Goaltending, Carter Hart's obviously going to be the biggest question there. He hasn't had the best go of it. right?
Their rosters, they have a very good roster.
Their roster is a playoff roster, but if your goaltending is not there, well, that sinks you, right? And the Flyers are a perfect example of that. So if Carter Hart, or if they make a change, whatever the case is, if goaltending becomes solid for the Flyers, you see them as a playoff team, even that third spot. It's almost as if they deserve to be there, but they've just had their pains in getting to that position. The Capitals always going to be in the mix. I feel like they are definitely a bubble team in terms of they're going to be competing. They're going to obviously the big storyline there. And if you want to go back to your most exciting question, like Ovechkin to me will be exciting to watch every single time he touches the puck, just because he's chasing a record we never thought would be broken, right? Like, I just love that. I love the idea that there's this this mountain that could never be climbed, according to many people. And now he's like, oh, he's there. Actually like, he's almost going to get to the summit. Like, we can actually envision him there, right? Which is
insane. It's insane. It is insane that he's.
I absolutely love it.
And sorry to cut you off, but for Ranger fans, you know, obviously, you hate the Capitals, blah, blah, Tom Wilson, all that crap.
Sure. Yeah.
I love watching Ovechkin. Almost all the current guys I have on the show, I'm always like, who's the toughest guy you played against? You know, and they always say, either Sid or Ovechkin. And I had Rob O'Gara on the show, and Rob and I were talking about Ovechkin. And I'm like, what is it like blocking his shot? And he's like, it's one of those things where you know it's going to hurt. And it does. You know, he's like, it's like you just had to like mentally. I'm like, how do you mentally get yourself there? And he's like, it's so tough because you know it's gonna hurt. And like he just loads up on that power play and just loads up in his little office there and just unbelievable. It's unbelievable how he's done it for this long.
Yeah, and hopefully he continues, because I'd love to see him get to that. I think we all would at this point, honestly. And the other two teams in the Metro, like, okay, so the Blue Jackets, I think that's the one team you look at this in this division and you say they're the ones that I would exclude from playoff conversation right now. They're going to have a rough go of it, at least projection wise on paper. You know, they're losing Seth Jones, other pieces there as well. You think this is going to be a rough one for the Blue Jackets. They're the only team that you really exclude from this conversation. But even the Penguins, that's the other team that I would say, well, if I have to pick another team in this division that I would exclude from playoff conversation, which is weird to say because they've always been a perennial playoff team, and Sidney Crosby and the 3 Stanley Cups in the last 20 years or since 2009, whatever, right? Like, they are also a team that I would say, okay, well, if I have to pick in the Metro, I would say the Penguins are the other team that I would say missed the playoffs, at least on paper today, especially because the injury concerns with Crosby and with Malkin. Now, Crosby won't be as long, but still, you got to wonder where he's at in his career, even though he's one of the best players to ever do it. With that team around him, you got to wonder if they are a playoff, a wild card, a bubble team, so to speak. But for that reason, I feel like the Metro is not only an exciting division, but one that has a lot of like playoff,
very wide open
teams.
Yeah, it's very wide open. I feel like we literally just talked about 5 teams that can make the playoffs. Other than the top 2, 8-team division, 7 teams are right there that could possibly play playoff teams, and it's gonna be tough because, the Islanders are really, obviously as a Ranger fan, you're rooting against Islanders, but there's comes to a point where the Islanders they're good. They're just really good. They're such a solid team. They just added Chara, who's 150 years old, so hopefully he breaks down this year.
He's still gonna be
good.
There's gonna be some reason that he's there, right? Like, whether he's just throwing valuable minutes in certain places, like he's still gonna contribute. I don't think Lou Lamoriello is gonna bring in a player like that unless he has this very specific vision, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree. Him and Parisi, we got him out of the division. Like we already got rid of this guy, and now he's back. And it's like, all right, like you just know he's going to put up 20 goals this year. You just know Parisi's going to put up 20 goals. He's just going to be back in that. I don't know. I feel like he's just a place where he's wanted again.
Yeah.
And Anders Lee is back.
Oh yeah, right.
He's back in the D. Ryan
Pulock.
Yeah. It's a great combo.
Lights out.
And their goaltending is fantastic. So it really sucks as a Ranger fan to see that. Let me tell you.
I know it was very difficult for you to say that. So
I'm
glad
saying,
you got through it there. As an impartial analyst.
Yeah, right. That was pretty good. I thought it was pretty good. I mean, yeah, the whole sucks to see that is obviously good for TV as well. So, I'll lend Messier some of that that insight. but yeah, no, the East is stacked, and the Rangers, it's gonna be like you said, as long as their young guys contribute, they should be there the entire year. They've between Truba and Fox and Lindgren and Miller, they have a very good top 4 on defense. Niels Lundqvist, we'll see what that kid can do on the defensive end if he makes the roster. Solid goaltending tandem. As long as Georgiev can stop a breakaway, it seems to be he still can't stop a breakaway even in preseason. I'm very excited for the Rangers season this year. I love your hot take of them making a run. I will continue to put that clip out there for everyone to see, because once that comes to fruition, we'll
now put it in context, though. Okay, like if all the stars align and all the pieces are together, you're just gonna put the Rangers are gonna make a deep run.
I'm just
3
saying,
seconds.
I'm just saying. Yeah. I'm just gonna put out there that Arda Ocal has said the Rangers will make the postseason. And Leafs won't get out of the second round. That's all I'm going to put out there.
And it's just going to be spliced just like that.
Just that.
Yeah.
Just that.
Just those 2 clips. No context.
Yeah, just that's it.
I am so glad that I came on your podcast, man.
That and Adam Fox. And Adam Fox should be a 90 plus in EA in NHL 22.
You said that. I didn't say that.
No,
I think he's perfectly rated at 87. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. You're just like, what? Are you kidding me?
We gotta go back. Oh my goodness. Yeah, him at 87, Lafreniere 82, Cole Caulfield's coming at 83. I'm like, come on. What are we doing here? All right, one more question before I let you go here. Who was your favorite interview you've done all time?
Oh, wow. So among hockey players, I talked to Doug Gilmour at length. That was a great interview. Mark Messier back in the day was a great interview. I had a lot of great hockey interviews, especially like outside of media scrums and things like that. Also, I worked in the pro wrestling bubble for a while before I got to WWE. So I had a lot of interesting conversations with people in that bubble. Also hockey fans like Chris Jericho, his father played for the Rangers, Ted Irvin. He's a fantastic interview. And Edge, who is a lifelong Leafs/Devils fan. The reason he likes the Devils, if people are curious, because he obviously grew up in Toronto, but he has a connection with the Devils, is because he was a fan of goaltenders, and he just fell in love with Chico Resch just very randomly.
It's a random guy.
Yeah, I know. And he was at the Devils at the time, and he just was like, "This is my guy." And then with Brodeur coming in, he was like, "Yep, I'm
You're good.
a giant Devils fan now." So that's why he has the Devils connection. But those are 2 that are always fascinating interviews. The late Roddy Piper, he was actually very good to me in my career. Like he did, he would publicly sing my praises. He never had to do that. But he was one that we always had these really, really deep and thoughtful conversations. Bret Hart's another one. Obviously, he has a big hockey connection. He with the Calgary Hitmen in the Western Hockey League. And he's also a big table hockey guy, plays a lot of table hockey, big fan. So that's cool. But yeah, I would say that those are some off the top of my head, especially athletes. And actually, here's a really, really crazy connection. So Cole Irvin is a pitcher for the A's, and he loves the NHL video game, which is very random. Not many athletes, you know what I mean? To find someone that is outside of the hockey bubble that loves the NHL video game, pretty rare. But Cole Irvin, pitcher for the Oakland A's, absolutely loves it, brings it on the road with him. So we've had a lot of conversations. We've actually streamed the game on the NHL Twitch. He just loves the game. That's his favorite video game. He just plays it all the time. And he's done events with the NHL as well. But I just love how cool of a connection that is. So I'd put him in the list too.
All right. That's awesome. How about any embarrassing blunders you've had that you think back? Oh man.
Oh, there's a ton. I remember once, this is a funny one. I mean, this wasn't really anyone's fault, but it was just hilarious because we were on live TV. I mean, obviously you misspeak and things come out incorrectly. That's happened to everyone. Yeah. It happened to me on my second Sports Center, where I just just completely flub a word and just did I just make up a word? Actually on we were talking earlier about the cat dangling at Hard Rock Stadium. I was trying to say dangling in my head. I guess I was thinking hanging. So the word came out danging. So I just invented a word. A combination of dangling and hanging came out danging. So if you watch the on-camera back, I'm just danging from the balcony. And I'm looking back, I'm all right, way to make up a word, pal. Good job, man. Good job. Professional broadcaster. You're well done. So one of them, I was a weather guy for a while. Which is hilarious. You don't need a to be a weather reporter in the field in Canada. You don't need a meteorology degree. So I did this for about a year and a half. and they would always send you to like the coldest places, right, to make it look perilous on television. Yeah. So I did a lot of like really, really bad storms and things like that. And I also did a morning show. So like the morning show was more fun. You'd find like fun things to do. So one of the morning shows, I decided, you know what, let's go to a farm. Let's just like, see barnyard animals and stuff like that. It'd be fun. So anyway, we have this one shot. I'm talking to the farmer who owns the barn, and the horse is behind us. And I'm telling you, I kid you not, the horse, what was supposed to happen was the horse was going to come in between us with his head, and we were just going to pet the horse. Okay. It was just like a cute little, whatever, morning show segment. So, okay, 10 seconds to go, blah, blah, blah. 5, 4, 3, the horse walks away, and the horse is like not feeling it. So we're like, okay, whatever. The horse will be in the background. No big deal. So I'm talking to this farmer. I'm talking about the farm, whatever. This is like a minute segment. Not 5 seconds in, I swear to you, this was not, I obviously can't be planned, but it's just hilarious. It's like the horse knew we were live on the air, because the horse positions itself such that I'm here. My subject is here. The horse is here, moves rear end right between us, and decides to just let loose right on live television. Like literally, like you can see it happening right on live television. And I didn't know what was happening at the time. And then I look back and I see it, and I'm like, well, we're live. Guess you're gonna have that image in the morning. Like, what do you do in that moment where the horse is literally like right in the middle too, like knew exactly the positioning? It was like a producer put the horse there. Just hilarious.
That's awesome.
So,
hey,
yeah.
That's good. Live TV.
Exactly. Nothing's a fail on live TV, right? I guess.
Oh man, that's awesome. Well, Arta, thanks so much for joining us. Can't wait to see your coverage on ESPN this year. Really excited about all the great NHL stuff you guys could be doing.
Yeah, Kyle, thanks for having me, man. This was fun.
I can't thank Arta enough for coming on. That was so much fun talking with him. Hopefully we'll get him back on as the season progresses, because he's awesome. What a great guy to talk with. I'm pumped to see his coverage in the NHL. You can tell how much he loves the sport. So I'm really excited to see all the content he puts out this year with ESPN, especially from the digital side, because he's so good at that. And I really think that's something that the NHL can really grow on. And I mean, ESPN is new to it, so I'm really hoping that they, really explore that and let him kind of use how creative he is and kind of run with that, because I only think that's going to be great to grow the sports. So can't thank Arta enough for coming on. And that does it for episode 44 of the Broadway Hat Podcast. Make sure you go on to Apple Podcasts and please subscribe and leave us a nice little 5-star review on there. We are still teamed up with the Alex's Lemonade Stand. For every 5-star review left, we donate $1 to the foundation. I believe we're up to now $29 since we've started this back in July. So please go on there, leave us a 5-star review. It takes just 1 minute out of your day, helps a great cause. So please go on there and do that whenever you can. Make sure you go and follow us on Spotify. Make sure you go check us out on all Google Play products, on Amazon, on Spreaker, on Pandora. Anywhere you could find podcasts, please go check us out there. Big news, we are now revamping and now restarted our YouTube channel. So make sure you go check out the Broadway Hat Podcast on YouTube. I'm really excited to get this back up and start running. We had this way back when on episode 3. Then we got away from it just because it's very time consuming, but we kind of figured out a better way to upload our videos and to do some editing there. So I'm really excited to have that. A lot of our listeners have asked for that element. So we're really excited to have that, get that started. So make sure you go on there and subscribe so you don't miss any episodes when we get launched on YouTube. I'm really excited to get that channel rolling. Make sure you go check us out on Unhinged Radio, powered by Belly Up Sports. We are live every Wednesday at 6:30 on Unhinged Radio. Thank you to all of our listeners. I believe we finished again in the top 10 for the month of September. So thank you to all of our listeners on Unhinged. It's been awesome to talk with some of you guys, and I'm really excited to get another month rolling with Unhinged. It's been great so far for both the show and I think Unhinged as well. So thank you to all of our people over at Unhinged for all the hard work they do behind the scenes. And also make sure you go check us out on all social media. You can find the show on Twitter at Broadway Hat Pod. You could find my personal Twitter account at KHallNY for all New York Ranger updates. Make sure you go check us out on Instagram and Facebook at the Broadway Hat Podcast. And that does it. We will see you next week.